The GTX 1660 Super is probably one of the most popular cards. If you're coming from the GTX 1660 Super, is it worth upgrading to the latest 60 series card RTX 5060? But wait, when I've asked you guys what's an acceptable upgrade, you mentioned that it needs to have at least 50% performance uplift. So we're going to see that on both of these cards. Obviously, if it's double the performance, that's a clear upgrade. If it's like less than 20%, that's probably you can probably hold on to your GTX 1660 Super for maybe 1 or 2 years. So we're going to run both of these cards in a lot of games, and we're going to use realistic settings and realistic scenarios to see how it would perform. We're also going to test it in all resolutions, 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. And to keep it realistic, we're going to use a standard AM5 processor, a non-X3D chip, the Ryzen 7600, because if you have the GTX 1660 Super, would you have 9800 X3D? Probably not, right? You probably have something similar. Okay, first game is Arc Raiders 1080p native, and we got low settings in here, and look at that one, 120% better FPS with our RTX 5060. Definitely an upgrade. When we move over to Cyberpunk 2077, we are using ultra settings in here, and look at that one, boys, we're only running 42 FPS with a GTX 1660 Super, while we're running 109 FPS with our 5060. That's 162% better. That's just a huge uplift. So definitely a good choice if you're playing single player games. Let's try another single player games, Oblivion Remastered, and here we have low settings, and we have FSR and DLSS enabled for both of these cards, and we're getting about like 44% better average FPS with our 56. Let's move on to our massive multiplayer shooters, and starting off with Battlefield 6. Look at that one. That's a triple digit lead, well, performance gain with our 5060. That's night and day, right? 60 FPS against 140 FPS. Let's try Delta Force, and once again we are getting about 105% better FPS and Delta Force. And let's try our firing benchmark, and here's still the same thing, over 100% gains in terms of the average FPS, and about like 89% and the 1% lows. And we have PUBG in here. We're getting decent FPS with a 1660 Super, but we are getting a much better FPS with our 5060. 95% better compared to the 1660 Super. Let's move down to our competitive game, Fortnite. Performance mode, DX12 in here, and the lead isn't much, 9%. We will have to see how this one plays out when we go to 1440p later on. Moving down to another competitive shooter. This is Valorant. We're not actually getting much in here, and you can see that both of these guys are not fully utilized in this competitive scenario. Only about 30 or 40% utilization. We will definitely have to check how this one performs in 1440p. Let's go to our hero shooters, and here we have Apex Legends on our heavy action benchmark. Look at that one, boys. Over 100% uplift for the 5060. And on our static benchmark, you're still getting like decent lead as well, 133% better FPS. How about Marvel Rivals? And it's the same thing. We're still getting over 100% better average FPS for the 5060. Okay, let's try a different game. How about Helldivers 2? And it's the same thing. We're still getting triple digit lead. That's 86% against 191. When we go to the stratagem benchmark, it's the same thing, right? 126% better compared to the GTX 1660 Super. So you can definitely see the theme here, boys. If you're playing at 1080p, the decision is obvious. Definitely get the 5060. Let's try Path of Exile 2, and we have upscalers in here, but we've just kept it at natives, and the 5060 is still getting that over 100% better in terms of average FPS. And lastly, we have World of Tanks in here, and as I mentioned before, we added this game because it's a different engine, and NVIDIA cards usually perform really good in this game, but in this one, yeah, that's a big difference, right? Okay, boys, just a quick plug. If you love the content, you'd like to support me, head down to Patreon and join our Patreon. I do post our updates in there for the channel. It's totally free to join, and if you want to support me financially, you can do that too. Okay, let's go back to the video. Let's go up to 1440p, and first up is Arc Raiders. We have upscalers in here, FSR quality for the GTX 1660 Super and DLSS quality for the 5060. Obviously, the is a difference in terms of video quality, but even with that one, we're still getting over 100% gains with our 5060. Moving to Cyberpunk 2077, and look at that one, boys. We do have upscalers in here. Once again, FSR quality for the GTX 6060 Super, and DLSS quality once again for our 5060 Transformer model, and we are getting 140% better in terms of performance. Let's go to Battlefield 6. Now we have upscalers once again in here, but look at the frame time with our GTX 1660 Super. Definitely not good for 1440p gameplay, and you're getting over 100% better performance with our 5060. And Delta Force, still the same thing, right? Over 100% performance uplift and the walking benchmark. And when we go to the firing benchmark, that's the same thing, right? There's a bit of a blip there with a 0.1% low, but that's about it. And PUBG, yes, you can still play the GTX 1660 Super and PUBG at 1440p with 100 FPS, but you're getting double that with our 5060. Let's move to our competitive shooters now. Performance mode with Fortnite, and here you can see the gap between both of these guys are getting wider as the 5060 is now stretching its legs and the 1660 Super is maxed out. When we go to Valorant, this one's not so much lead. There isn't much difference with this one, right? It's only about 7% better and about like slightly better lows, but that's about it. And our hero shooters, Apex Legends, once again, we're still getting over 100 FPS gains with our 5060 on the firing benchmark, and on our static benchmark it's the same thing, over 100% gains as well. And Marvel Rivals is the same thing, 134% better average FPS. In Helldivers 2, 136% better in terms of average FPS on the Gatling benchmark. On the strategy benchmark, it's the same, it's essentially the same thing, like over 100% gains once again. Out of XL2, we have used upscalers in here, FSR for the GTX 1660 Super and DLSS for the RTX 5060, and we are still getting 110% gains. And let's finish it off with World of Tanks, and you can see that the GTX 1660 Super is actually like, there's a bit of a stutter there compared to our 5060, and we're still getting over 100% lead. Okay, let's finish this off with 4K performance. Now I know both of these guys are not designed for 4K, but we might as well do it here anyway, when we've kept realistic settings in this 4K. So low settings because we want visibility for both of these guys, and we've got performance in terms of the upscaling quality settings. And in here, boys, we're getting 118 FPS with our 5060 and Arc Raiders, and only about 50 FPS with the GTX 1660 Super. Double the performance once again. In Cyberpunk 2077, once again, we have performance for our upscaling. Now, you do have to take into consideration that the 5060 will have better video quality, even though they are at the performance setting. So you have to keep that in mind. And even with that, you are still getting a much better playable experience with our 5060 compared to the 1660 Super. And PUBG, yes, you can play with the 1660 Super, but I wouldn't recommend that one. At least you can play with the 5060 competitive settings at 4K if you want to play that, okay? And World of Tanks in here, we got Ultra SD 4K, so it's gonna push the card, and you can see that it's stuttering with our 1660 Super, over 100% gains, although it's not that good with the 5060 because only about 70 FPS. So we're gonna turn the settings down to medium, and on medium settings, here you go, you're getting much better FPS with our GTX 1660 Super and about 200 FPS with our 5060. Still the same thing, over 100% gains with our RTX 5060. And before we look at everything, we're just gonna quickly look at power consumption, and look at that one, boys, right? The RTX 5060 does consume a little bit more compared to the 1660 Super, but in terms of the performance, that's like a huge performance uplift. Okay, so let's look at this one overall at 1080p. If you're upgrading from the GTX 1660 Super over to the RTX 5060, you're gonna get double the performance in terms of average FPS. So that's a definite upgrade, right? In terms of 1% lows, you're just going to get 84%, which is still pretty good, right? That's over 50%. It's amazing. And on our 0.1% lows, you're only going to get 58% better average per uplift, but that's still good, right? Over 50%, definitely a yes if you're upgrading. Yeah, if you're planning to upgrade, definitely get that one. There are 2 games in Fortnite and Valorant wherein the gains aren't that good. So if you're just playing those games, you don't really need to upgrade your GTX 1660 Super. In terms of 1440p, once again, you'll be getting over 100% better performance with our RTX 5060 coming from the 1660 Super. In terms of 1% lows, once again, more than double the performance, and in the 0.1% lows, you'll be getting 79% better performance. The outlier in this case is once again Valorant. Now with Fortnite, you are going to see a performance bump. However, in Valorant, there isn't that much. So if you're only playing Valorant, even at 1440p, you're fine with a GTX 1660 Super. Now, in terms of 4K, I know this isn't realistic, but we want to do something for science, right? So average FPS is once again over 100%. In terms of 1% lows, you're getting 89% better, and on the 0.1% lows, you are getting 88% better. It's very consistent across the board. Now, you do have to keep pricing in check as well. Now, if you're going to sell your GTX 1660 Super, it's probably going to get you about $110 on the used market. However, buying the new RTX 5060 is really expensive in this current landscape, right? That's about $340, but you do get that massive performance jump, and you also get 2GB more. You're going to push that VRAM to 8GB, but not enough for some scenarios, but at least it'll still be better compared to the 6GB that you have with your 1660 Super. If you're thinking of getting the 5060, get it. If you're coming from the 1660 Super, definitely get it. If we're talking about budget cards, one of the most popular card from the red team is the RX 6600. We tested that card out against Intel's P580 last time. So if you want to see that, just click this video right here. Just click it, boys, and I'll see you there.